two ways being on a fitness journey can lead to growing in holiness, a Catholic's perspective. In Catholicism, it's taught that holiness is a grace that's bestowed upon us by God. Growing in holiness is done through cooperating with that grace, or more specifically, that sanctifying grace, which God provides us. And how do we cooperate with it? Well, by revolving our lives around God and fixing our actions and will on Him, as well as what Christ, Scripture, and the tradition of the Catholic Church teaches us. Loving God and other humans is an ideal way of doing that. It's no coincidence that the first two of the 10 Commandments are the most important of them. Important to note is that in order to maintain our sanctifying grace with God, that we do our best to refrain from sin. Since sin, particularly mortal sin, will stand between us and the sanctifying grace that God provides us. See, if that sanctifying grace is being blocked by sin, then we won't be able to grow in holiness. That's a massive part in why the sacrament of reconciliation is so important. And of course, why receiving the sacrament of baptism is crucial too. Okay, so why should we want to grow in holiness? Because it means growing closer and closer to God. And that's the most important thing that we could ever hope to do. So what exactly does fitness have anything to do with growing in holiness? Well, let's break it down. Fitness, or being fit, means being in a state of good health and strength. And what does it take to be fit or to meet that end? It means consistently doing regular exercise sessions, eating healthy, and living what's probably best called a healthy lifestyle, which could mean doing things like prioritizing that you get enough sleep. Simple, right? Sure. But for many people, or even most people, it's all easier said than done. Regular exercise is tough. No matter how you spin it, it involves exerting yourself to the point of experiencing at least some degree of physical and mental discomfort. And committing to doing it consistently means investing time in your schedule to regularly experience that discomfort. Eating a healthy, nutritious diet is simple on paper too. Without getting into the nitty-gritty of it, it means eating mostly unprocessed whole foods and avoiding the excessive consumption of calories. Intentionally prioritizing that way of eating takes effort. It often means saying no to the most delicious, tasty foods that you can imagine, like ice cream and chips, and going out of your way to include more vegetables, fruits, and high-quality protein sources in your meals instead. In our day and age, that's really not always easy, especially considering the accessibility, affordability, and convenience of the not-so-healthy, super tasty foods that we have access to. The main reason most people set out on their fitness journey is to accomplish their physical fitness goals. Usually those goals are something to the effect of becoming leaner, stronger, more muscular, and overall healthier. Those physical fitness goals are what you would call the natural result of the fitness journey. And of course, there's nothing wrong with pursuing those goals. The body and soul is one, and as a creation of God, it likely brings glory to Him to take care of your physical body. We have the potential to grow in holiness too, which could be considered the supernatural result of a fitness journey. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to focus on two big ways that embarking on a fitness journey can lead us to growing in holiness. The first is that a fitness journey has the potential to lead to a massive amount of growth in virtue. The second is that embarking on a fitness journey involves voluntarily accepting at least some degree of suffering, which we can offer up to God. Let's start with the former, growing in virtue. Where do I even start with this? Regular exercise, eating healthy, and living a well-structured, healthy lifestyle involves what? Willpower, discipline, self-denial, fortitude, patience, temperance. The list goes on. They're all there. See, upon growing in those virtues in fitness, we can carry them over and directly apply them to grow in holiness. Here are a few examples. At a surface level, having strong willpower can help us to avoid acting on temptations that can lead us to sin. If we refrain from sin, we can maintain our connection with God's sanctifying grace. Willpower is also something that can help us to commit acts of love. Thomas Aquinas teaches us that love isn't exactly a feeling, it's an action, to will the good of the other. And there's agape, the Greek word that describes the pure, unconditional, selfless love that's ideally meant to be directed to God and to other people. To love or to will the good of the other or enact agape isn't always easy in any context. But having strong willpower can help us to act in love even when it is tough. Imagine having a family member, like a parent perhaps, who you've been at odds with. What you might want to do is avoid them. But with willpower, it might help you to instead act towards them with loving reverence. That's something that hits 2 of the 10 commandments pretty directly, to love your neighbor and to honor thy mother and father. Let's use the development of the virtue self-denial through fitness as another example. Self-denial means turning down a personal desire or desires in favor of accomplishing a bigger, perhaps more important goal or set of goals. That virtue is an absolute necessity on any fitness journey. Having the discipline, which is another virtue, to regularly experience the discomfort that comes with exercise instead of doing the other things that you might want to do, like relax by watching something on a streaming service or just doing some other hobby, is a good example. Another big one is practicing self-denial in the context of your eating and food. Turning down the super delicious desserts, snacks, and other foods that you might strongly have the desire to eat, but aren't exactly in alignment with accomplishing your physical fitness goals, like muscle growth or fat loss, undeniably takes no shortage of self-denial. Now, what role can the virtue of self-denial have in growing in holiness? Well, a pretty darn important one. Having a regularly structured, consistent prayer routine, like praying the rosary daily, or prioritizing that you regularly receive the sacraments, like by going to Mass every Sunday to receive the Eucharist, or by going daily even if you can, or receiving other sacraments like the sacrament of confession, might mean denying your other desires. You might have a desire to sleep in on Sunday morning instead of going to Mass, for example, but the virtue of self-denial would put your desire to sleep in behind you so that you can prioritize receiving the Eucharist by going to Mass on Sunday instead. I found that for myself, that the virtues of self-denial and discipline that I've developed from my own fitness journey over the years has really helped me to establish a consistent and well-structured prayer routine. So for me, praying the rosary multiple times per day. Self-denial can also lead you to putting your own personal desires behind you so that you can better act in love for other people. A super basic example of this could be a parent putting their own desires behind them so that they can act in love and take care of their child. On a more visceral level, self-denial is key in acting in accordance with God's will in general too. As Catholics, we know that Christ commands us to pick up our own cross and follow him. And as that imagery suggests, doing so is not always easy. Alas, it is, at the end of the day, what will lead us to grow in holiness, and will probably be something that will lead to something much greater than our own personal desires. I could honestly go on and on about this and could make an entire video on all of the different virtues that we can develop by pursuing our fitness journeys and how each of those virtues can lead us to grow in holiness. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to move on for now to the next big way that a fitness journey can lead to growth in holiness. Here it is for you. Being on a fitness journey involves the voluntary acceptance and experience of suffering. Again, regular exercise is tough, and so is enacting the virtues of discipline, willpower, fortitude, temperance, self-denial to regularly eat healthy. In doing either of those, it involves experiencing some degree of suffering. The physical pain of lifting, the discomfort of hunger from dieting. You get the idea. But something that I find to be absolutely incredible is that we have the potential to grow in holiness through our suffering. Think of the lives of some of the greatest saints, like Padre Pio, who experienced stigmata for years, among other forms of suffering. There's Saint John of the Cross, who experienced horrible, unjust imprisonment. And Saint Faustina, who experienced excruciating suffering from prolonged tuberculosis, which ended up leading to her death at age 33. I'm admittedly still learning more about the lives of all the saints and their experiences with suffering, and I've got to say, it's all pretty jaw-dropping. Something they all have in common is that they all willfully accepted their suffering and offered it up to God, knowing that in doing so, it actually led them to become closer to Him. There's something notable about Saint Faustina that comes to mind. Christ approached her stating that her suffering would be used to rescue souls. From my understanding, this refers to her suffering being used in exchange for the faster purification of the poor souls in purgatory. How cool is that? In fitness, no matter how you look at it, there is some suffering involved. Of course, that suffering does lead to a good natural end, which is the prosperity of the physical human body. But to a deeper supernatural level, we can offer up our suffering to Christ to grow closer to Him. And also, we can even use our suffering kind of as an exchange to help the poor souls of purgatory. I don't know about you, but I just think the prospect of all of that is just so incredible and miraculous. It's something that's been really helping me to embrace the suffering that I experience on my own personal natural bodybuilding fitness journey. And there you have it. By pursuing your fitness journey, you can both grow in virtue and you can voluntarily accept and experience suffering that you can offer up to God. With good intent, both the growth in virtue and the offered up suffering can lead you to grow in holiness. Pretty darn cool if you ask me. If you enjoyed this video or in any way found it helpful or interesting, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. I would also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This is one of the first videos in this new YouTube channel, so any of your thoughts or feedback is all helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Praise be to God, and I'll see you in the next video.